So thank you very much, and once again, welcome to Kenben's Media TV. We've been doing a series on the 10 essential skills that we need to develop so that we can be able to become better in our lives. And the whole foundation of the whole series about the essential skills that we need to develop is for us to make Africa a great continent. And we believe that we as African, uh, we can grow to the heights that we want to grow, and we can also be able to change our continent to become one of the best continents. If you look at the continent like Europe, the continent like Asia, mentioning countries like Japan and China, those were countries that started from almost nowhere. You remember in 1958 to around 1962, the Chinese country, or the China was so much affected by the famine, the China famine that was there, that killed almost 55 million people. You can imagine it killed almost 55 million people, and they were really struggling in making the ends meet. 2022 or 2022, where we are today, China is one of the best economy in the world. If you look at countries like Japan, as I have said, they have so much engaged in manufacturing industry, especially in manufacturing of vehicles. And most of the African cars that we use, we import from Japan, the Toyota and the others that we really import, and we are making the economies be so good. And so we believe that if we can become good personally, on a personal level, then there's a very big possibility that we can make Africa a great continent. So we continue with the series that we were doing. We were doing the series about the 10 essential of that we need, essential skills that we need to develop in order for us to be better. We said that if we want to change the whole of Africa, we must start with ourselves. That if we change ourselves, the way we think, the way we see things, the perspective about life and everything else, then we can impact that to the families that we come from. And then the family that we come from now can impact to the whole nation. And then the whole nation, maybe the nation like Kenya, Ghana, Nigeria, Burundi, Rwanda, and all the other countries now that makes up Africa, then we can change our continent in Africa. And so we were talking about the 10 essential. Last time we were talking about the interpersonal communication, and I said that we are going to highlight some of the things that we need to do, or some of the guidelines that we need to follow in order for us to become better interpersonal communication. When we are talking about interpersonal communication, I said last time that this is a communication between two people or two or more people. That when you're talking to yourself, that is interpersonal communication. We did a video on interpersonal communication. You can see it on our YouTube channel. And we also started on the interpersonal communication, and I said that today I'm going to give you some guidelines on what you need to think, or what you need to consider when you are talking to someone else. So what is the first thing that you need to consider when you're talking to someone else? Number one, you need to consider the context. What is the context that you are talking about, or what is the context that both of you are in that facilitates the interpersonal communication? You'd realize, or you'd concur with me, that not every context you can use anyone that you want. For instance, if you give a context of someone who is doing an interview for a job, the context dictates that the person who is interviewing you is the person who is going to ask the questions. And so the kind of the framing of the question that is going to frame to you it will determine the kind of answers that you are going to give. This is a communication between someone who is seeking for a job and someone who is giving the job. And so the context dictates so much about what you are going to talk, and the grammar that you are going to use, and the arrangement of the words that you are going to use. You cannot use vulgar language when you are doing an interview. So the context will mean that because this is a context that demands a lot of respect, then you have to know the kind of words to use. And so the interpersonal communication in such context will be determined maybe by who is asking the question, who is calling for the shot, and then for you as a person who is going to answer the questions, then you are the one who is going to determine the kind of words that you are going to use in order for you to be able to answer the questions that are being asked. Then the other thing, or the second thing that we should check in the interpersonal communication is the content of what is being talked about. You realize that the content will always determine how you talk, the kind of words again that you use, and the kind of content determines the seriousness of the on the context. The content and the context are two different things. The context is where, or the climate, or the environment that you're talking to, and the content now is the what is needed. For instance, if you are talking about a teacher must prepare his content so well for the students who are going to learn from the content that must be prepared by the teacher. And so the content here will determine the kind of language that the teacher is going to use. I'm just using the teacher learner situation for you to be able to understand the kind of content. And so if we can leverage that even to the families that we have, the kind of content that you are talking to, or what you are talking about with your partner in the families, would also determine the kind of words that you are going to use. You see, there are sometimes that the husband or the wife will bring serious content, and when the serious content now comes in, the kind of ones that are going to be used will so much be determined by the content that will be of value to what is being spoken about or what is being deliberated on. And so the content is one of the things that we need to consider as a guideline on how we are going to engage in the interpersonal communication. Then the other thing we also need to consider is the person who is receiving the information. The person who is receiving the information also determines the kind of interpersonal communication and the kind of grammar that you are going to use. And I said in the previous video that the kind of grammar, we're not talking about the grammar, we are not talking about the vocabulary that most people think about. We are talking about how you arrange the words in a sentence. And the kind of the receiver that you are going to have will determine so much. For instance, if it is a parent who is talking to the child is the receiver, and if it is a kind of a counsel that this parent is giving to this child, the content will determine, and also the receiver, the kind of the receiver. If you want to reprimand someone, maybe the kind of language that you use when reprimanding someone is not the same time, is not the same type of grammar or the same of language that you are going to use when you are mocking someone, or when you're insulting someone, or when you are counseling someone. So the receiver also determines the interpersonal communication. Then the other thing is the attitude of the receiver, of the speaker. What is the attitude of the speaker? Is this speaker well advanced in what he is talking about? What is the kind of attitude that he has about the topic that he is going to talk about? Because you see, the kind of the attitude that this person has, the speaker, will determine so much on the kind of words that he is going to use. For instance, if the attitude of the speaker, if there are two people who are quarreling, maybe let's go into the same setting that we have of a family, and there are people who are quarreling each other, a husband and a wife. The attitude of what they are quarreling about from the speaker, it will determine so much on the kind of words that he is going to use. If the attitude is wrong, or if this person maybe has gotten into a place where he feels or she feels that what is being done to him or her is not right, there's a very big possibility that the kind of attitude that he is going to approach the whole communication will be a long attitude. And when they will approach the whole communication, the whole interpersonal communication in the long attitude, then there's a very big possibility that the communication will not go as it was intended to be. Then the other thing that we need also to look at when we are talking about the interpersonal communication is our culture. Wherever you go in the whole world, people have different cultures. For instance, there's some cultures in the world that do not entertain men, or rather women talking to men directly. And so those kind of cultures will also determine on the kind of choices that women will use when they are talking to their husbands. And the same happens even to other cultures where men maybe they're not supposed to be talking. It's the women who takes the mantle of speaking. And the culture that we are into, and also the culture that you create, because a culture you can rely on the culture that has already been created by other people, or you can also be able to create your own culture in the family, in the church, in school, and everywhere else that you go and intermingle with people. There's a very big possibility that you can also create your own culture, and that culture now that you create will also determine the kind of ones that you are going to use, and most importantly, how you're going to have your opening remarks and your closing remarks, and the kind of ones that you are going to use when you are talking. Then the other thing, or the last thing that you should also think about when we want to have an interpersonal communication is the intentions of the speaker. You understand that communication in nature, it's transactional in nature. That every word that you say, there must be something that you want to attain from what you are saying. There must be something that you are intending to get from the speaker, whether you want to pass a message to the listener, or you want to maybe to inquire something, or you want to request something from the receiver of the information. The intention of the speaker will determine so much on the content that will be included in that communication. It will also determine on the context that is going to create, because the intention of the speaker will determine the kind of ones that are going to use. For instance, if I give you a good example, if the speaker wants to beg something, or he wants to take something from you, or the whole intention is for you to understand his situation, and in order for you to be able to give anything that this speaker wants from you, there's a very big possibility that the speaker will humble himself or herself as he comes to you, and that humbleness now will also determine the kind of ones that they are going to use in order for the intentions to be achieved. And so all these things will determine so much on how we conduct our interpersonal communication. As we said before, interpersonal communication is not like the intrapersonal communication. The intrapersonal communication, you get answers as you speak to yourself. There's no one else that you are waiting to come and maybe give you the answers of what you want. But when we are talking about the interpersonal communication, this is a next stage of ones between two or more people. That when you call them through the phone, there is a response that you expect from them. The response may be what you wanted, or what maybe you thought you wanted from them, and the response might be not what you wanted. That you do not necessarily always get what you want when it comes to the intrapersonal communication. And as we were talking about all these things, intrapersonal communication becomes a very paramount skill for us to be able to develop, for us to maybe be able to be successful in our life. So in everything that you are going to do, always remember that everyone else out there is waiting for you to have good interpersonal communication, so that they can be able to talk to you as you wish. And remember, everything that you plant is what that you are going to sow. You cannot expect always to be rude to people and then expect them to be good to you. It doesn't go like that. Sometimes maybe we do not take it so serious, and we want to insult people, we want to demean people with the ones that we give, and then we expect those people to respect us. Respect cannot come just because you think that you deserve to be respected. Respect comes because you have invested something for you to be respected. So thank you very much, and I hope that this series about the 10 essentials that we need to develop in order for us to be better in the world is a series that is going to change your mentality, to change your mind, and even make you a better person into the world. We need a good African community. We need a good African environment for all of us to be able to thrive. And one of the ways to make Africa great is to make ourselves great. So thank you very much. God bless you. See you next time as we continue with this series of the most essential skills that we need to develop. Ken Benz Munidi, Ken Benz Media TV, telling African stories the African way.